Hi everyone, today we'll be focusing on the legs and the back as we try to focus on some more sitting poses. So taking it a little bit easier, remaining sitting down on the ground this time, and we'll just try and ease out the backs of the legs and the back, allowing us to sit up nice and properly by the end of this video. So to begin with, we're just going to come into a nice strong seated position. Feel free to sit on a block or a blanket if that's available to you. We're going to sit up nice and tall, peel the chest up nice and proud. We're going to tuck the chin slightly. We're going to pretend there's a mannequin string pulling us from the tip of our head. So feel free to soften or close the eyes here. And we're just going to begin by slowing down the breath, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. We're just going to repeat that cycle. Try and keep nice posture as you do so. Try not to slouch or push into the lower back. Stay up nice and proud. Breathing in. Breathing out. In through the nose. And out through the nose. Try to even the duration of both the inhale and the exhales. Trying to create an even cycle through the complete breath. Let's try to soften the body. If you're holding on to any tightness anywhere, see if you can just take note of it. See if you can just shuffle it about, just ease it off a little bit. Just continue to breathe nice and deeply. Okay, and from here what we're going to do is at one end of our mat, we're going to take our feet out in front of us nice and long, both feet out in front. So we want to lay them down, toes pointing up, and we're just going to start by taking our hands overhead, sitting up nice and long, take a nice big inhale, and then exhale, start to pinch forward from the hips, keeping the chest proud, looking forward. And then we're going to go as far as we can. Maybe we can get a hold of the big toes with our index and middle fingers. If that's not available to you, feel free to hold on to the ankles, maybe the calves, wherever you can get to today along the leg. Just take hold of there and just realize that there's a little bit further that you can work towards. So there's no pressure here. We're not trying to force ourselves into this pose. If we start to force it, one, we'll start to round the back, and two, we'll start to tense all the muscles that we're trying to loosen off, which is quite counterintuitive. This pose, A, if you're more flexible, will be easier, and B, if you have longer limbs, again, will make this pose slightly easier. So if you've got shorter arms, don't feel bad that you can't quite get as far, even though you're hinging at the hips as much as everyone else. Just embrace your body and its composition. So wherever we find comfortable today, just got to take a nice big inhale, come up to a flat back, and then exhale. We're going to try and fold over the front legs. Try and get the crown of our head towards our toes is the intention. Bring the elbows in nice and tight and try and use that leverage to pull you a little bit further towards your feet. If you can't get your stomach or your low abdomen to rest on your quads, feel free to bend the knees slightly, and that will ensure that one, your abdomen is resting on your feet and legs, and then two, it'll ensure that you've got a nice straight back. So wherever you are, just even out the inhales, With the exhales, just embrace the point that you're at and just let the body ease into the pose. This is the first pose of the day, so we're just easing in and just trying to find wherever the threshold is. As soon as it starts to become a little bit of discomfort, just hold it there. And over time, with each breath, we might lower a little bit further. So on the inhales, feel that expansion in the back body. And then on the exhales, feel the root space that opens up. And just experiment to see on each exhale if there's an ability to maybe shift a little bit further forward. You might have a lot of space to do so. You might find that you can only move 1 millimeter, or you might find that you remain exactly where you are. All three options are perfectly okay here. Just continue to breathe nice and deeply, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. So take this moment for yourself. This practice is for you and for no one else. So just take a moment here just to let everything empty out. See if you can empty the mind and just enjoy the moment. Okay, on your next inhale, rise up. And then what we're going to do here this time, wherever you are, if you can feel if you've got space to go a little bit further forward, feel free to. So if you had hold your toes, feel free to take your hands this time and scoop them around your toes. So fingers on the base of your feet, thumbs on top. And we're going to peel them open so the feet are nice and flat from pinky toe to pinky toe. So this will provide a different type of stretch across the legs. If you had your hands on your shins, feel free to see if you can maybe get a little bit further down, or maybe you're holding the ankles this time, or maybe then progressing up to your toes, or if you can't go any further, just revert back to what you did on the first round. So wherever you are today, don't worry if you don't feel you're doing it properly. The point is that you're doing it, and that's always the first step, and always the hardest step. So take a nice big inhale again, and exhale, fold forward one more time. We're just going to remain here, continue to breathe nice and deeply. Stretch might feel a little bit more intense this time, so don't try to push it. As long as you're getting that nice length in the back, everything else in your legs should start to ease off. So your hamstrings don't stop at your glutes. They actually go up a portion of the way up your back. So although it feels like it's a back stretch, you're actually also stretching out your hamstrings. So everything here is interconnected. So everything you stretch in your legs will ease off the back, and everything you do in the back will assist in easing off the legs. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Okay, inhaling, coming back up. We're going to take our left foot in, and we're basically just going to take the heel of the left foot and bring it into the inner thigh. And see how far you can get that into the inner thigh, right into the hip flexor. And then see if you can get your knee to touch the ground, creating a nice 90-degree bend. If your knee is slightly up here, it just means you got a bit of tightness in the hip flexor. Don't worry about that. If you find it uncomfortable, feel free to use a block or a blanket. Just provide an extra bit of support there until you're able to lay it out comfortably flat. So we're just going to take ourselves up nice and wide. We're going to inhale, bring our arms above our head, and then exhale, fold over that front leg. So we're going to do the same again, just taking hold of wherever's most comfortable for yourself, but this time focusing on one leg at a time. Inhaling, coming up to a straight back, and exhale, folding over. So set the intention of trying to get the crown of your head to touch your big toe. Keeping the elbows in tucked in nice and tight, and wherever you can get your hands, try and use that leverage to help just pull you very slightly further towards the foot. Make sure there's no tension in the neck at all. Maybe give the head a little bit of a wiggle just to make sure. Continuing to breathe nice and deeply. Just enjoy the motion here. If it's too intense, just ease up off a little bit, just come back a little bit further up. We don't want to be overdoing it here. We want to yield into these postures, floating over. We don't want to be forcing ourselves into them. That's where we may do ourselves a mischief. So we just want to keep it nice and light. Just let gravity do its work. Okay, inhaling, coming back up. Just going to swap our legs over. See how much of it you can do without holding on to your legs as you go through. It just adds a little bit of control into the legs rather than relying on the arms. Again, creating a nice L shape. Bring our hands overhead. Nice big inhale. And exhale, fold forward. Again, keeping the body nice and long. Don't worry if one side doesn't feel quite as good as the other side. It's perfectly natural. We always tend to favour one side over the other. And sometimes when we stretch one side with the other side still being quite tight, it can just feel a little bit strange in the body. So just wherever you are, just enjoy it. Breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the nose. Okay, inhaling, coming back up. And this time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to try and create a bind in the back to stretch out a little bit further and open up those shoulders. So keeping both legs out nice and long, and giving them a little bit of a shape beforehand. We're going to take the left leg, bring it in. We're going to bring the heel just a little bit wider than hip width, with the toes pointing directly forward, really pressing firmly into the ground. We're going to take the right leg and we're going to point that straight ahead, with the toes pointing straight up, keeping it nice and long. We're going to take our left arm, going to raise it above our head nice and long, and then try and reach forward as far as you can on an exhale. From here, if it's available to you, we're going to rotate the thumb to the floor, and we're going to wrap it round that left leg so that our hand is outside of our leg with the back of the hand resting on our back. I'm going to take the right arm forward, again dropping that thumb down, and then we're going to bring it round to connect with that left hand. If you can't quite get there, feel free to use a strap or maybe a belt to hold in both hands so that you can keep the hands further apart. And then what you can do is you can slowly creep the fingers across the material until eventually clasping the hands together. So looking forward at the right foot in front, take an inhale, come up to a straight back, and exhale, fold over that front leg. So this will be quite intense, so don't feel bad if you don't move at all here. There's a lot going on in this pose. You've got the shoulders being opened up, you've got the back being stretched, you've got the back of the leg being stretched. Really bringing the whole body into this movement. So we're just doing the same again. See if you can keep both shoulders level. You're not just rotating to one side or collapsing into one shoulder. Try and keep the shoulders, pull them back away from the ears. Continuing to breathe nice and deep. Don't let the breath be stifled. If you feel like the breath's being stifled, just ease back a little bit. There's nothing wrong with easing back. There's no ego in yoga. If your body is maybe a little bit more exhausted today, a little bit tighter, maybe you've had a rougher day at work or school, then your body needs to recover. You can't just keep pushing it and pushing it, because eventually it will spring back on you. Okay, inhaling, coming up, we're going to release the bind, and we're going to cross the legs over. So this time, taking the left leg out in front, toes pointing upwards. We're then going to take the right foot, and we're going to bring it just beyond hip width, foot firmly planted on the ground. Going to take our right arm, bring it overhead, inhale, reach up as far as you can go. And then on an exhale, start to reach forward as far as you can. We're then going to drop the right thumb again. Then we're going to swing it around on the outside of the leg until the palm of our hand is touching our back. We're then going to do the same with the left arm, reaching forward, dropping the thumb, rotating round, taking a bind if that's available to you. And then go take a nice big inhale and exhale, fold over that front leg. So you might be able to go a little bit further this side. You might feel a little bit more awkward, don't worry about it. As long as your breath isn't being stifled here. Remember, breathing is always comes first. Everything else is secondary. Okay, then from here, slowly rise back up, release the bind. Then from here, we're going to take both feet together And we're going to come into cobbler's pose, so taking the outside edges of the feet, we're going to plant them together. We're then going to take our thumbs and we're going to peel the feet open like a book, and then take our elbows and we're going to dig them into our hip flexors, really trying to open out the legs as far as we can go. So in an ideal world, with full flexibility, you might be able to open up the palms of your feet completely so that the heels face the ceiling. In that Western world, we tend to lose that mobility pretty quickly. So don't worry if you don't quite get full way around. It's always something to work on. Ankle mobility is super important. Prevents a lot of slips, trips and falls, which then can lead to further more serious incidents as you get older. Just keeping the back nice and tall, chest nice and proud, just opening everything up, really trying to open the legs out. Creating a nice long stretch on the inner thigh and across the groin. Continue to breathe nice and deeply. Okay, take a nice big inhale. Now on the exhale, we're going to try and reach forward as far as we can go. Aiming to get our head beyond our feet, maybe to the floor in front. Keeping the shoulders away from the ears. Just really digging the elbows into the legs. Trying to keep everything up nice and open. With each inhale, feel yourself expand, and then on each exhale, see if you can stretch forward a little bit further forward. What we want to be doing is leaning forward, and that will naturally bring us down. We don't want to be trying to force ourselves straight down just yet. Just reaching up nice and long. And over time, we'll start to hinge a little bit further at the hips each time. With each breath, little by little. Okay, on an inhale, straighten back up. Just continue to breathe. We'll just take a moment here. Just take note. See if maybe your knees have gotten a little bit further down. Maybe they haven't. And then this time, take a nice big inhale. What we're going to do on the exhale is we're going to push out our lower back. And we're going to try and curve the back enough so that we can maybe get the crown of our head to rest in between our feet. At least that's the intention. And we're just really stretching out the back in a different direction here. Utilizing the tensegrity of our spine and just stretching it out in a different direction. Let the head just hang nice and low, no scrunching up of the neck. Then on an inhale, just one vertebra at a time, Just very slowly roll back up to seated. Okay, for our final, most challenging pose. So don't worry here, it's just all about having fun. I would recommend, if you do have anything, to sit up on it this time. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into a very challenging pose here. And we'll just take it step by step. So to begin with, we're going to take our left leg and we're going to tuck it under ourselves so that the left knee is pointing forward. Then once that's in place, we take the right leg and bring that over. And what we're aiming to do is we're trying to get both knees to stack directly on top of each other, facing directly in front. So you might need a little bit of rearranging to get this in place. And then once you're comfortable, you want to have both glutes firmly planted into the ground. So if you don't quite have that, find something to maybe leverage yourself up a little bit higher in order to get that impact. You should be starting to feel a nice long stretch quite intensely across the side of the legs, especially up towards the glutes. If you're comfortable here, just remain here. It's perfectly fine. You want to make sure your breath isn't stifled. You're up nice and long. Otherwise, if you feel like you need a little bit more of a stretch, try and bring your legs a little bit further up, your feet a little bit further wider, until maybe one day you've got a nice straight line going across the both. But just find wherever you are today, keeping yourself up nice and long. We all have a tendency, especially with this kind of stretch, to really tense the muscles in order to hold the posture. But see if you can ease off a little bit. Just ease off the muscles. Let gravity just do its work and compression, causing the further stretch. Have your hands wherever is most comfortable. Maybe on the base of your feet, maybe on the ground behind, maybe just leaning on your feet or your legs. So wherever you find comfortable. Just continue to breathe nice and slowly. So if you find your breathing is being stifled, again, feel free to ease the legs back, maybe raise the right knee up a little bit. And that'll just allow you just to free up the body a little bit and allow movement for the full breath. Okay, from here, if it's available to you, we're going to take the left arm overhead. We're going to take the right arm over and we're just going to pull the left arm towards us. That's just going to create a nice tricep stretch. And what it'll do is it'll really allow us to engage on really focusing on sitting upright. So just make sure you stay nice and tall, really pushing the chest through, keeping that nice arch in the lower back. And release. And then what we're going to do in order to take it to the other side, so just a little bit of fun here, so don't worry if it doesn't work, is rather than lift the legs off and rearrange, we're simply going to pick ourselves off the ground with the feet where they are. We're going to follow, so that you want to follow the direction of whichever knee's on top. So I've got the right one here, so I'm going to go around in this direction, following the direction of the knee. So coming up, I'm going to twist round and keep going, twisting on the balls of your feet, and basically you just keep rotating round until that right leg is now on the bottom and the left leg is now on top. So you might need to do a little bit of rearranging here afterwards. Both sides will not feel even, especially in this type of pose. So just rearrange till you're back and comfortable again. Don't worry if it didn't work the first time. And just continue to sit up nice and tall. Breathing in nice and deeply. Really embracing that stretch up the side of the legs. And then this time, take our right arm over, followed by our left, and we'll just engage if it's available to you. Create a nice tricep stretch on the right arm this time. Try to focus on still pulling your crown of your head up towards the ceiling. And just enjoy, don't worry, won't be here for too much longer. And then on an exhale, we'll slowly release the arms. And then we'll slowly release the legs, just lifting them up one by one, maybe giving them a little bit of a shake just to re-engage the legs. And we'll come back to our final pose, Shavasana. So very slowly coming to the ground, we'll lie on our backs. We'll take our arms overhead. We're just going to stretch as far as we can, toes away from the fingers. So see how far you can stretch the whole body. Take a nice big inhale. And then exhale, sweep the arms round to your side. Palms facing up towards the ceiling. Let the feet just flop out to the side. And then soften or close the eyes. Just continue to breathe nice and fully. Maybe have a quick scan of the body. Just see if anything feels a little bit looser than it did before. Maybe something feels a little bit different. Make sure we're not holding any tightness anywhere. Especially around the face. We have a habit of scrunching up our face. Just let all the muscles just melt. Into the floor. So we'll remain here for a minute or two before closing out the practice. Okay, for those that want to remain here a little bit longer, feel free to. Otherwise, we'll come up into a seated pose, keeping the eyes softened or closed. Coming into a cross-legged position, whichever feels most comfortable for yourself. Set up with a nice long back one more time, chin slightly tucked, shoulders down and away from the ears. Just have a quick scan, notice if anything feels a little bit different now compared to when we first started. If your eyes are closed or softened, feel free to flutter the eyelids open, just let the light back in. And thank you for joining me for another session today. Namaste.